Hey guys, my name is Max. This is my home theater setup that you guys see behind me. And this video is about the Polk Audio S55 versus S60 floor standing speakers. As you guys see, they're standing right next to me. The S60s are on the outside. They are larger, they're taller by about maybe 4-ish inches. You'll probably have the specs online. You guys can check that out. They're deeper by about 3.5 inches. So the size is larger, and obviously you see there's an extra driver in the speakers. Behind me is a 135-inch screen. I have a 4K projector, and I have a Dolby Atmos system, subwoofer hooked up. So I'll have all the gear that I'm using for my home theater system in the video description. I'll have links to it, so if you guys want to check that out, my receiver and stuff like that. So this is my first serious home theater system. It's been my dream for a number of years now, and I'm finally able to do that. And I wanted to wait till I get 4K because I have 4K in all my other gear. So I've been kind of tweaking and spending a lot of time on the sound, figuring out what's going to sound best, doing tons of research, but I was not able to find an answer on the Polk S55s versus the S60s. Of course, if you just look at specs, the cabinet is larger, you have an extra driver, and it says it can handle more power overall, and the low frequencies, it goes a little bit lower. But that's about it, and it doesn't seem like it's worth getting them for the extra money. So the reason, I've actually had these Polk S55s for about 2 weeks now, and the reason I just got these S60s, I spent a lot of time listening to them. My brother was here listening to them as well, kind of trying to hear the difference. I actually had a higher end sub, and I bought something that was more powerful. It was kind of a discontinued subwoofer. It actually had a third more power and deeper for less than half the price, since I returned my Klipsch subwoofer and then I picked up a different one, and that gave me some extra room in my budget to be able to kind of step up to these, since I was trying to stay below a limit. So before I get into the specifics of the actual differences, I do want to say that the S55 sounds great. If you're stepping up from a home theater and a box system like I was, you're gonna really like them, and they sound great. And I liked almost everything about them, and they sounded spectacular. The only thing that really got me is the highs. The tweeters were a little bit too crisp. There's something just about them that they hit a little bit too hard, and they're kind of louder than the rest of the speaker. And sometimes you can really tell in vocals with really high voices, but overall they sounded fantastic and they're great. So if you can't afford the S60s, but you can, the S55s are gonna be more than happy. Now, should you get the S60s if you can afford to spend the extra money? The short answer is yes, absolutely you should. Now, like I said, online, when you're looking at specs, you can't really tell the difference, and there's really no website or no articles or forums where I found that anybody actually gave an answer or looked at the differences. They don't have these S60s at Best Buy. You need to order them online, at least none of the Best Buys in my area or nearby. So I'll explain what the differences are and why it's worth it. So obviously we have 3 drivers here, and I think that makes a huge difference because the actual speakers themselves are the same, and then the tweeters are the same. But the differences are, one, you do notice that the lower, deeper bass is louder. Now, when I was listening, I was just listening to these 2 speakers and set up the same way I would for my home theater system. So I did have some of the lowest lows shut off, where the crossover comes in for my subwoofer. But like I said, I had all the other speakers disabled other than these because I wanted to see how they perform in a home theater setup. And I did listen to a lot of music, and it sounded fantastic. So you do notice that it does, the deeper notes are louder, which is really nice. The other thing the first thing that stood out to me is it's louder. I was really worried that this speaker, that it has an extra driver, my amplifier is going to be not powerful enough to power it, and I'll need to step it up or crank the volume up, but I did not have to do that. For the same amount of power, same volume, it was noticeably louder. On top of that, the tweeters, where this tweeter right here almost sounded a little like harsh sometimes, maybe a little bit too loud and a little bit harsh, that was gone, and vocals were much more natural. It's very, very evident. So that's the second thing that I noticed after listening to different musical tones. Now, the reason for that is these speakers are split up for different frequencies. So here we have the lowest bass, This speaker right here is midtones, or the mids in the song. And then this speaker handles a lot of the vocals, the lower notes in vocals. And then the tweeter just does the highest notes. Now, what this speaker does is, this is kind of your bass and a little bit of the mids. This is mids and a little bit of the vocals, way less vocals than this does. And then here the tweeter is getting a lot more of the vocal frequencies. That is why I realized that's why it sounded a little bit harsh and a little bit too loud, because it's getting more power on this speaker and just the vocals don't sound as natural. Now, like I said, if you're used to other speakers, you're still going to sound great, and I was very happy with it beforehand. Other than that, I did notice it was a little bit harsh sometimes, and it's completely eliminated here. Now we have 3 drivers and we have the tweeter, and the tweeter doesn't sound like it's too loud anymore, and the vocals sound a lot more natural because this is pushing out majority of the vocal frequencies. And in a lot of the songs, not only was it louder and you hear the low bass notes, but you also hear the mid tones, the mids of the song a lot more. And in certain songs, if you have punchy bass, it sounds way louder, way more punchy. And in some songs, I actually did some listening where I had one speaker hooked up on this side, the S55, the S60 on that side. You hear, like if it's really punchy, you hear a lot more, and there's certain notes that it almost sounds like this speaker's not reproducing them. It is, but it's a lot quieter because this speaker right here has to handle all the mids, a little bit of the vocals, just a little bit of the vocals, and so it can't balance out, it can't push out certain frequencies as well because it's kind of overloaded. And then this one doesn't put out the subs as well. So it has, these 2 drivers have to handle a lot more, and same with the tweeter, where here we have just the very highs, majority of the vocals, most of the mids here, and then kind of the bass here. So it's a more natural sound, it's louder, it's a lot more punchy, it's lower, a lower bass, and the bass is louder as well. So that's basically the differences. I was honestly surprised. I didn't think I'd notice a big difference. I thought maybe a little bit quieter and the mids would be louder to balance out the tweeter, but I didn't realize why the tweeter sounded the way it did. So overall, I would definitely highly recommend the S60s over the S55s if you can afford it. I would say check, I'm gonna have links to Amazon and B&H. They have some really good deals, and on B&H they have fast shipping and no, they don't collect sales tax. So for me, it wasn't a big price jump to upgrade to these, and especially when you're considering a whole home theater system overall or your whole audio system, it is definitely worth it. So like I said, you'll still be happy with these, but man, these speakers sound amazing. The vocals are so clean, so smooth. The tweeters, the clip speakers I listened to, the highs were just too kind of extreme. The high end sounds fantastic, and it's surprising how much low end these things can put out. They have bass ports on the bottom. You actually feel it in your chest with bass and in your seats. I have 4 reclining seats here that I also got on Amazon. They were a great deal. So overall, this speaker sounds better in every way. So to answer the question once again, if you're watching this video, yes, the S60 is worth it. Your lows sound better and louder, your mids sound better, your vocals sound a lot more natural in the tweeters. The tweeters sound good on both, but here the tweeter only has to get those very high notes, where here it has to reproduce a lot more of the vocal range. And then some kind of sound effects, same thing. If you're watching a movie and they have certain sounds, this speaker is going to be reproducing a lot of those higher notes instead of forcing the tweeter to do it. So before I ramble on and keep talking about it, hopefully this video is helpful. If you guys have any questions, you guys can ask in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm returning these 2 S55s to Best Buy. I'm going to keep the S60s, and I know they're going to serve me for a very long time, and I'll be very happy with it, and I am very happy with it. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you guys can enjoy your home theater setup if you're doing music or movies or whatever. I know 4K on a 135-inch screen being 8-10 feet away is fantastic. Thank you guys for watching.